Fitria Wulandari, who was around 22 years old at the time, lived in Bogor, Indonesia. According to her family, they said that Fitria had a fairly cheerful personality. She was known for being chatty and did not hesitate to share what was happening in her life. Fitria was also seen in her surroundings as a polite girl. She always greeted anyone and smiled when passing by. In her social interactions, she had a very lively character. Her talkative nature often lightened the mood, and her friends felt happy when they were with her. Based on information I obtained, Fitria had been in a relationship since school. The man was tall and had tattoos on his body. The couple appeared to love each other, as shown in several posts on social media, where there were many photos and videos displaying their affection. The man's name was Rahmat Agil Septiansya, commonly called Alung. He was around 20 years old, slightly younger than Fitria. According to testimonies from close friends, Alung was known to be very jealous. He did not allow Fitria to use social media or communicate with other men. This attitude even led to a conflict between Alung and a man who tried to get close to Fitria. Alung felt upset because the man invited Fitria to go out alone. A fight ensued. In this incident, Alung injured the man, who had to be treated at the hospital. Unfortunately, Alung did not realize that his actions would have long-term consequences. The man's parents reported the incident to the police. Alung was then taken by 4 officers, along with Fitria, for further questioning and interrogation. Ultimately, Alung had to face legal proceedings and was found guilty, receiving a 5-year prison sentence. Fitria felt very guilty about the incident. Her regret was expressed through a promise to Alung to remain faithful and wait for him until he was free. Besides Fitria, her parents were also very remorseful about this event. They felt that their daughter played a role in Alung's fate. Therefore, Fitria's family decided to support and encourage Alung. Iwan, Fitria's father, shared that he and his wife visited Alung in prison several times. Iwan even said that he had come to regard Alung as his own son and always brought clothes and food when visiting. Alung deeply felt the genuine affection from his future in-laws. In one moment, he even expressed his gratitude and thanks to them. In short, Alung's sentence was reduced due to good behavior. He was released under strict supervision. This news was met with joy by Fitria and her parents. Finally, Alung could experience freedom again and continue his future that had been temporarily put on hold. However, exactly 1 month after Alung was released, the reality of being an ex-convict was not as easy as he had imagined. He faced difficulties in finding a job. Alung had applied to several companies but was always rejected due to his troubled background. Eventually, he found a job as a parking attendant at a shopping mall in Bogor, thanks to the help of a close friend. Meanwhile, Alung's relationship with Fitria grew stronger. They increasingly showed affection on social media, and Alung felt very grateful because Fitria's extended family accepted him well. Despite having been in prison, it was not an issue for them. Fitria's parents always provided advice and support. Alung was also trusted to take care of Fitria. However, in the last 2 weeks, the couple had experienced some conflicts. This was triggered by Alung's unchanged behavior, which had become increasingly jealous and possessive. After his release from prison, he imposed his will on Fitria even more. At one point, Alung nearly exploded with anger when he felt jealous of one of Fitria's friends who had exchanged messages with her. Alung acted harshly, using inappropriate words towards Fitria, feeling that she intended to betray him. Fitria denied the accusations and explained that her friend was just an old acquaintance and that there was nothing to be suspicious of. She also reminded Alung that he knew all her social media passwords and that she had never hidden anything from her phone. However, Alung's selfish behavior made Fitria feel extremely frustrated. She never expected her life to be filled with such pressure and restrictions. According to one of her close friends, Fitria confided about Alung's increasingly uncontrollable behavior. Fitria felt disturbed by Alung's excessive jealousy and believed that if this continued, the same mistakes could repeat and cause serious problems again. She did not want Alung to get into trouble again, so she planned to end the relationship. She was tired of the constant suspicion, especially since Alung was no longer as warm and romantic as he used to be. However, Fitria also realized that letting go of Alung would not be easy, especially since they had been together for so long. In short, Fitria tried to give Alung one more chance, and they resumed their relationship as before. Unfortunately, Fitria's decision to stay with Alung would lead to disaster. According to her close friend, at that time, the three of them, Fitria, Alung, and her friend, were hanging out at a coffee shop. Her friend noticed that the couple seemed to be arguing. Fitria looked gloomy, while Alung tried to calm her down. A few minutes later, they said goodbye to go home, with Alung stating he would take her home and resolve their issues. However, they headed to a lodge instead. According to Alung, they went there to lighten the tense atmosphere they had earlier. In his further statement to the police, Alung explained that they spent time in that room. After their encounter, Alung admitted he felt disappointed because Fitria remained cold towards him. He also mentioned that he felt insulted after what had happened in bed. How could Fitria simply ask to break up? At that moment, Fitria rebelled and screamed loudly. Alung admitted that he panicked, fearing that the commotion would be heard by the occupants of other rooms. He also mentioned that Fitria had said things that hurt his feelings, making him feel belittled. At this point, Alung began to feel very emotional. His anger peaked, and he struggled to control himself. Alung confessed that he had restrained Fitria, causing the girl to lose consciousness on the bed. Once Fitria was in a helpless state, Alung claimed that he actually wanted to take his girlfriend home. That night, he forced himself to ride with Fitria in her weakened condition. During the journey, on a quiet road, Fitria fell, and the back of her head struck the asphalt. Alung then decided to take her to an empty warehouse near his workplace. In his statement to the police, Alung said that Fitria was still breathing at that time, but he feared taking her to the hospital because he worried that Fitria would tell what had happened. Alung chose to leave Fitria lying there. The next day, Fitria's friends and family began to search for her. Alung claimed that he had taken Fitria home. Fitria's father, Mr. Iwan, had met Alung while he was guarding the parking lot in front of the warehouse where Fitria was hidden. When asked, Alung explained that Fitria was at a friend's house and promised to pick her up later. After devising a plan, Alung eventually told one of his friends that Fitria had fallen while riding with him. The friend, unaware of the actual plan, came to see him and was shocked to find Fitria lifeless. They both took Fitria to the nearest hospital. Initially, Alung thought his plan would succeed. However, after Mr. Iwan and his wife came and saw their daughter in such a terrible condition, a father's instinct prompted him to report the incident to the police. Following an investigation, many inconsistencies were found on Fitria's body. A few hours later, Alung was finally named a suspect. The police had gathered enough evidence to charge him. Alung was then sentenced to 14 years in prison. He was found guilty of actions that took his girlfriend's life. The sentence sparked protests from many, especially Fitria's family, who felt the punishment was not proportional to what Alung had done. The family was also shocked that Alung could act in such a way, considering they had helped him during his difficult times. However, the response they received destroyed their beloved daughter. This is a bitter reality in life, triggered by promiscuity. What are your thoughts on this case? What lessons can be learned? Write your answers in the comments. Subscribe, and see you in the next case tomorrow at 9 a.m.